Hello and welcome to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Ngor. Hello and welcome to Fixing South Sudan, your ideas for building the new nation. I am Ngor. This week on Fixing South Sudan, a discussion about the peace implementation and the programs of the Ministry of Mining. And joining us in the show is Honorable Henry Dilah Odwar, the Minister of Mining and the Deputy Chairman of the SPLA-IO. It's my pleasure to welcome him to Fixing South Sudan from the historical town of Capoeira. Sir, welcome to the show.
Hello, Mining Ngor. It's been always a pleasure to be with you.
Welcome to the program, and let's begin with the peace implementation. Give us an update about how the portfolios for the deputy governors and also for the ministries of the states is going.
I think this is my first time to appear in your program. As to your question, yes, I am the co-chair together with the Honorable Paul Mayom, and we have 4 parties that are in talks in regards to the institutions that are supposed to be at the state and local government levels, meaning the counties and the municipalities. And indeed, we have reached agreement on issues in regards, for example, the executive at the state level. The cabinet, the council of ministers at the state level will be 17. Each state will have 17 ministers. And then out of that, the governor will be entitled to 5 advisors. And also, we are going to have 6 commissions for each state. And once we are done with the executive, we go to parliament, the state parliament, whereby each state will have 71 members, and they will also have a specialized committee of 8. And so that will complete the government at the state level. And when we go to local government, and that is mainly counties and municipalities, we say that they will have a council. Each council will be composed of 35 individuals, and they too will have a specialized committee of 5 committees. So that is so far where you are. Except that now we have hit a little bit of a snag in regards to the sharing of counties. We agreed, of course, that we are having 10 states, and of those 10 states, there are 79 counties. It was signed by all the 4 parties. And for some reason on Friday, there was a reneging from the former IT GONU. That no, they are going to share only 75, and 4 counties will be left out because they are part of what has been slated as administrative areas. And as far as some of the opposition parties are concerned, including IO, we said no, we are, that there is nothing like that in the agreement. It is almost akin to what happened in 2015, whereby we agreed on 10 states And eventually,
You are
when
saying
it
that,
came in, it became through a decree to 28.
so the disagreement is over the allocation of the administrative areas,
The county
the county
administrative areas.
administrative areas
Yeah,
for the,
yeah. So we are supposed to share the 90 counties, meaning, I mean, the 79 counties, meaning the commissioners will be shared amongst the four parties. But now, four are going to be taken, yanked out by the incumbent former government, leaving 75 to be shared. And if you do that, then you will not be sharing it with the other parties that will miss out. And yet we agreed that we are going to have 79 shared according to the ratios as per the agreement.
and the portfolios that you have agreed upon. Have you agreed on the specifics, which states the IO will take which ministries where, and the deputies?
Yes, except that we are stalled on three states. In Central Equatoria, we are stalled with the government in regards to the Ministry of Housing, Land, and so on. Uh, that is something that we both are contesting. And the other one, I believe, is the Ministry of Animal Resources. So for us, we want housing. We have had problems in Juba in regards to housing that the incumbent government has been managing for a long, long time. We thought we would bring a difference to see what was the problem and how we can fix it.
How soon do you think you are going to be able to agree on all the outstanding issues?
Yes, in our last meeting, we agreed to adjourn the meeting on Friday so that we can take these sticking issues to the principals. I believe Paul Mayom and I will be meeting with the principals to find guidance of how we can resolve it. And if the principals can give us the guidance, I believe that even that day we can finish.
And tell me in particular about the deputy governors' positions for various states.
Yeah, that going to be 9 deputy governors, of which the government is supposed to have 5. I owe to have 3, and then one by the OPP and so on. We have agreed on that. However, because there is an amicable relations between the former incumbent government, IT GONU, with the OPP, whereby the OPP had given the incumbent government then one governorship, but this time they were given 2 from the government side, former IT GONU. So their number of deputy governors became 3. So we agreed with that.
You speak of a snag, and speaking about that, let's talk about Upper Nile, which has been a bit of a challenge, to put it mildly. Is there any compromise on it, or where do things stand as far as the SPLM-IO is concerned?
Well, as far as principle is concerned, the agreement says each party picks its own candidate, and all the parties pick their own candidates. And it is required that the president make the appointments. And there is nowhere do you find in the agreement that the president can reject a nominee of another party. So we believe here there is an intention of maybe violating the agreement. The president has there is nothing in the agreement that says he should reject a nominee of IO. And that being the case, even if IO were to say, okay, let's bring another nominee, it will only encourage the former incumbent government to be reneging on what is written in the agreement. So we would not like to have a precedent. We have had a lot of delays. because we could not, reach the pre-transitional provisions implemented. We postponed it twice. And why? Because of lack of resources. And lack of resources of the 5 parties signatory to the agreement, who is supposed to foot the bill? Is it the opposition party or the incumbent government? And it was supposed to be the incumbent government. And so they are saying there is no money, there is no that, a lot of delays. And right now, when we talk of what is happening in Upper Nile, whereby an IO nominee is rejected, that does not have anything to do with the resources, but it has got consequences that may not be intended. So it is very, very important that we get that resolved. And how do we get it resolved? We have IGAD that is supposed to be monitoring through RJMEC to come up with a ruling as to why, and is it that another party can reject a nominee of a party different from the rejecting party? So,
Honorable, let me just interject here. The simplest way of resolving this is compromise. Have you considered that?
yes, but compromise when principle is involved. We have compromised several times, you know. Uh, for example,
You understand the underlying politics in Upper Nile. Orange is feared by some communities, and if he comes, they think it is not peace implementation, it is war implementation.
fear is a two-way traffic. It is not just some communities born fearful, while others are born, with a stance of being there. No, it cuts both ways. What is understandable is what are the root causes of these so-called fears. The whole thing boils down to land. And as you are aware, when the 32, rather the beginning with the 28 states were, decreed, it apportioned parts of the Shilluk land to the state called Eastern Nile. And basically the Shilluk are saying the land was grabbed and handed over to Apadang Dinka. And so the Shilluk too are fearful of such land acquisition by a different community, land belonging to another community. So for them, they believe that if Olony were to become governor, it would be easy to resolve some of these issues.
Which is not sitting nicely with
Which
the
is
other
not
side.
sitting
So there
nicely
is a
with
stalemate.
the other people.
There is a stalemate, and if IO is for peace, why are the factors in play not considered?
Now, what is peace? We are talking of reconciliation. We are talking of forgiveness. And why in this particular area are those two very important words of action not being considered? General Olony, when he becomes governor, is he going to do things differently, or he's going to be part of this peace? And we, as a party, we are totally into this peace. And so he will be directed to act according to the peace process. So I don't think it is a problem of saying, oh, he's going to cause war and all this and all. How? Okay, we are currently in a ceasefire mode. We would like to implement the peace, but the principle is here. Why do you reject somebody without even, first of all, Is there a precedent that,
There is a track record, and
yeah,
he has been waging war in that area.
now,
And that's why it's not palatable to the communities in
now,
Malakal.
how many people have been part of this war that is taking place, of this suffering that the people, how many people are involved? How many people have been indicted, either by a foreign country or even under sanction by the UN? These people, are they not serving in the system? So why are you picking on one particular individual?
The president made what he called a painful compromise to revert to 10 states. What has IO done for peace implementation? What painful compromise has your party made?
Thank you. Now, when you talk of painful compromise,
That's what he called it.
now, was 10 states part of an agreement, or was 32 states part of an agreement? You will find that 10 states was signed in 2015.
There is the reality of the
August.
agreement and the reality of the politics.
No.
32 states was what the president's
You-
base were supporting 32
No.
states.
You cannot go
And
for
the
the
president left his base and made
No.
and made the compromise.
You cannot go
To
for the
implement
reality
the
of
agreement in
politics.
letter and spirit.
You know, there is a book called Too Many Agreements Broken. And that is probably, and that's one of them. You cannot agree and sign on 10 states and then you come and flip over and put a decree of 28 states. You are practically breaking the agreement because of politics.
So it wasn't a compromise.
And that is wrong. So there is no compromise.
It wasn't a
We are
compromise.
just agreeing on what it is supposed to be.
Assume that the president appoints your nominee
Yes.
and Malakal goes up in flames. Is that what the IO wants?
No, that is what the president and his supporters have ingrained in their mind. But what we are saying is that we have peace, and Olon is going to follow peace. But what are the unintended consequences if you keep Olon out? He's one of the most powerful people in IO. If you keep him out, where will he go? Currently, we have a problem in terms of
Does he have to go to
cantonments.
Malakal? Does
Hold
he
on.
have to go to Malakal?
Hold on. Currently, we have problems.
I understand
in-
his impact. His impact, you are saying he has to be accommodated so that he doesn't become a spoiler.
That is one way of how to put it, okay? But that accommodation, is it to be pandered and another party to rule on it? No, we are asked to nominate, and we did the nomination. So let us comply with it. You think that the governors that were nominated by the incumbent, former incumbent party presented the best governors? No, we accepted them because of peace. Otherwise, if that is the case, rejecting Olong, let us go back to the table. And then the governors that we feel are also going to cause problems have to go out. Is that what you want?
As far as your party is concerned, no change on Orange. He is the nominee for Upper Nile,
Yes.
whether the government or the SPLM in government wants it or not. No change.
No change, exactly. And there has to be a solution. And now that we are deadlocked, IGAD has to come in, the guarantors have to come in.
The
And I'm
peace is
sure
for
there
South
is-
Sudanese, by South Sudanese. Why do you always have to go back to the institutions that are regional? Can you not sit as brothers and sisters and resolve the issues?
Without these regional countries, without the people involved in the peace process, there would not be this revitalized agreement. So why do we think that, okay, we have signed an agreement through these other, people who really wish South Sudan good. And now that after inking, into the papers, that, okay, we can do it now without them. No, the agreement says if we are stuck, we can seek the auspices of the other institutions to help out how we can reach an amicable situation. I think there's nothing wrong with it.
What would you say to the people of South Sudan that peace has come and it is here to stay, or it's facing challenges?
Now, this peace is not just peace of per se. We need the reforms. Why was there a war? There were problems, and these problems are identified. These problems are, the resolution of it is well, put in the agreement. And so, what we are telling the people of South Sudan, let us follow the agreement to reach a very, very durable peace. Because if we don't follow the agreement, we're likely to have the status quo. And the status quo was something that led us to this turmoil, and we would like to avoid it by all means.
In this program, we speak of fixing South Sudan. What will it take to fix South Sudan?
It will take the will to fix South Sudan. And who is supposed to take the will of fixing South Sudan? It is supposed to be the principals of the parties who signed the agreement. And now, this will, how do you measure it? You measure it by having implemented provisions of the agreement, whereby, for example, resources are availed to the implementation of those provisions. And I will point at you one: the issue of cantonments and the issue of training centers. Yes, the cantonments are supposed to have been for the opposition, and the incumbent government forces are supposed to go to barracks. That is very clear.
Hasn't happened.
It has happened, but there has been a staggered problems of no food, no medicine, no shelter. And if there is a solution, it is sporadic. And once we moved from cantonments or from barracks to training centers, there we also faced obstacles in terms of the items I've just elucidated. No food, people have died in those training centers and so forth and so on. Now, where is the money?
So that indicates that there is no will.
Yeah, there is no will, because we borrow money for roads are prioritized, not knowing that if this peace is not, being put in place, we are likely to, fall back into violence, and these roads become unusable, and so forth and so on. We know what is happening of recent, between, Juba and Nimule. We don't know, are those criminals who ran away from cantonments, who ran away from the training centers, or is it from an organized force that is without government, without the current Artigonu? So
The agreement has to be implemented in letter of spirit to fix South Sudan.
you have said it. And if we have little problems here and there, we sit down. And if it is beyond us, we seek the advice of people who have been with us right from the beginning.
Let me come back to your ministry, the Ministry of Mining. These are issues that you have been engaged in from the Parliament all the way. Now that you are the Minister of Mining, tell me about some of your priorities. What are you looking at?
Well, first I came to the ministry and I found a lot of challenges in that the office that is accommodating the workers, the employees under the ministry is small. And so you find that they come in maybe 3 or so times a week, and then another group comes and continues the work the next few days and so forth and so on. So we need a larger building to accommodate people, and it is not just one of those ministries. It has a lot of science involved. We need a laboratory to basically make sure that the rock types are identified and so forth and so on. We need equipment, exploration equipment, magnetometers, gravimeters, radiometrics, and so forth and so on. And the budget that I inherited, the budget of 2019-2020 basically is for salaries. I have human resource staff of 134, and the money for the ministry is just to pay their salaries, and they get only maybe salaries after 4 months, after so many months, and so forth and so on. But nothing really for going to the field to do the discovery. You have to do the exploration, and then if you find indications of certain minerals, you have to either, query, you have to either drill in order to find the mother lode. And yes, I know, I worked in that field for almost 11 years. I wrote the law of petroleum, I wrote the law of mining, and I know in and out. But there have been shortcuts. In my ministry, for example, we said small-scale mining can be managed by the locals, large-scale mining operations by larger companies, and then artisanal is for the indigenous people. But now the small-scale mining operations are abused, especially at the state level. And I am glad that here...
Come back to that, but yes, you are beginning with the basics, and let's talk about your ministry being a non-oil generating ministry, because we are relying on oil and we have to diversify the economy. Can you just give a brief about what needs to be done?
Yes, once we have identified that the oil money is not coming because of the slump in prices, we in the cluster, the economic cluster, agreed that let us identify that ministry that can really generate revenue quickly. And my ministry was one of them. And then I was asked to come up with a program, a crash program, which I drew. I put together my team in the ministry. We got the program, and it was budgeted at slightly over $3 million, so that we can now reach the field. We can get the geologists to go and do the, first of all, the surveys.
What is the program? What is the program?
Yeah, this is what I'm just telling you. The program is to send people to the field. The program is to acquire data. This is satellite data because it's already existing. The program is to fly airborne surveys. An airborne survey, one flight alone, you can get data about magnetics, you can get data about gravity, you can get data about electromagnetics, you can get data about radiometrics and so forth and so on. So we, from the satellite data, we can identify the priority areas, and then we fly the airborne. And then after that, we can drill. Also, if there are companies that are ready to do that, we can have an agreement with them, and they do this. So this...
Once you receive the data?
Yes, once we receive the data, it is made public, national, international, so that the most competent companies can come and bid to have, the license areas, and then they can start the work. Sometimes you have to start with a survey, doing the exploration, do the drilling until you find the mother lode, meaning the larger concentration of the mineral, and then we go from there.
Is that going to be done?
No. After the economic cluster agreed that the resource, the request from the ministry, the $3-point-something million was agreed upon. It was taken to the presidency. It was agreed upon, but now there is nothing coming. So we are stuck. Okay, we are totally stuck.
How do we move the nation forward if you come back to the issue of reforms and you are trying to initiate reforms and you feel that nothing is going forward? When we talk about fixing South Sudan, it is about what is wrong with South Sudan. What is wrong with South Sudan?
Well, right now, the problem is we're supposed to sit as council of ministers, right? But this COVID-19 has been made an excuse. But COVID-19, you need distancing, right? You need to wear the proper attire in terms of mask and so forth and so on. And if the space is small, how about the the National Assembly? There you can sit almost 6 meters apart and you still wear your mask and you still talk on the microphone and you can still discuss. And if that is small enough, let's go to the Freedom Hall so that because right now...
The Council of Ministers have to sit to move the country forward.
Exactly, because right now what is happening is that issues are discussed at the clusters, from the clusters is taken to the presidency and so forth and so on. And there is no input from the General Council of Ministers. And finally, also the Assembly, the National Assembly. This is the key institution. This is the key institution that will move the country forward, that will bring all these reforms and fix the country.
Let's end with Capoeira. Very colorful reception for the governor.
Oh,
you spoke. What was your impression about all the ethnicities that came? And you said that Capoeira, a metropolitan city. What is your impression?
Oh, my impression was, that people want peace. They yearn for peace. But it is us, the politicians, to have the will that this peace is realizable.
Do you have that will?
I have that will.
What shows that, what demonstrates that you have the will?
Because right from the beginning, I've been seized at bringing reform to this country.
Will you fix South Sudan?
Alone, that is almost impossible. But if the leadership were to listen, I think we'll fix South Sudan.
Honorable Henry Dilah Odwar, thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you, Mining Ngor. Always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Power